Drinking life from a fire hose, it seems sometimes. Sound familiar? This is life in the A.S.A.P lane. If you're feeling anxious, stressed, addicted, pressured, you are not alone. In fact, there's a global epidemic of stress and anxiety. Many aren't able to cope without the use of pills, alcohol, food, even retail therapy, shopping. The result is record levels of opioid overdose deaths, obesity levels, and teen suicide attempts. The good news is, there is an exit ramp, and your host, best-selling author, and former U.S. Congressman Alan Steelman will guide you to your very own exit. Alan's mission is to help you learn about and adopt strategies and techniques to restore balance and equilibrium to your life. You'll learn from Alan and his guests simple and practical stress-relieving techniques, and you will be inspired by numerous interviews with other people just like you, who have moved from stressed out to charged up, and from misery to mastery. You are cordially invited to join us and learn to live your life in joy and on purpose. Take a deep breath. Let's begin exiting the A.S.A.P lane with Alan.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. I think you're going to find this very interesting because it touches on something that we all could use a little bit more of, and that is more sleep. America is a nation, and each of us individually have grown and lived basically by a mantra of bigger, better, faster, stronger. And as a nation, we have largely succeeded, and individually, many of us have prospered beyond our wildest dreams. Yet in many ways, the dark side of all this success has taken an increasingly large toll on our mental and physical health. Deaths from opioids and suicide are at all-time highs. America's obesity rate is now second only to Mexico in the world. The false wizards of pills, alcohol, binge eating, and digital addiction are the self-medication of choice by many who simply can't cope with the pace of life in the digital age without a crutch. I'm often reminded when I think about this of the opening line from the novel that we all studied either in high school or college by Charles Dickens, A Tale of Two Cities. The opening line, as you may remember, was, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times." Today, there has never been more knowledge available with a mere click of your smartphone, and yet never a greater need for wisdom. The value of exercise and proper eating are widely acknowledged as pillars of a healthy life. The value of sleep is much less acknowledged, except among the wise, I would add. Burning the candle at both ends is a well-known adage, and particularly in this bigger, better, faster, stronger country in which we live. And it's even sometimes worn as a badge of courage by many A personality types. Sleep deprivation has many consequences, and none of them are good. My guest today, whom I'm very proud to introduce, is Alvaro Baselli. He embodies the quality of the wise man who, quote, keeps his money in his head, but not in his heart. He is the founder and CEO of Nuvana, a startup company that combines 20 plus years of leadership in product design and material science and sleep products. And with his passion to help others achieve a more balanced life, he founded this company. Prior to founding Nuvana, Alvaro has a 20-year record of driving profitable growth in multiple B2B industries. Most recently, he served as president of the personal care division of a $1 billion industry leader in the plastic films business. His roles have included general management, business development, sales, and marketing. As an entrepreneur, an innovator, and a team builder, he inspires people to live a more balanced life that includes better sleep, mindfulness, positivity, and gratitude. He is committed to providing best-in-class innovative products with thoughtfully created and expertly curated resources. Alvaro, thank you so much for agreeing to be our guest today, and welcome.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you for having me here in your podcast. I was so happy to reconnect with you after, I think, almost 5 years now. And I have to say, since I read your book, I restarted my yoga practice. Now more consistently than before. And I give you full credit for raising the awareness and creating the motivation for me to start. So thank you for that.
Oh, well, you bet. And, it's not the normal CEO who talks much about the importance of work-life balance. In fact, particularly among publicly traded companies, there's such an emphasis on stock price, earnings per share, the quarterly earnings, and so forth, that the bigger, better, faster, stronger mantra, rules. And people work, work, work. And as we know, the best data available shows that there's disengagement at work. A majority of people don't like their jobs, feel like their company and their boss don't understand them. So it's interesting that you as a businessman have decided to pursue a strategy of outdueling the competition with a message of work-life balance and the importance. Could you please elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes, absolutely. Well, first of all, let me clarify that I'm a business person, have been in business for many years. I'm not a sleep expert. I grew up with material innovation and business management, but I had a personal experience, and I would say transformation or evolution, whatever you want to call, where I used to be a workaholic, and work took 99% of my time, and I saw I benefited from that for a period of time, but after a while, actually after many years, I realized that that's not right, and it doesn't really help you live a holistic, balanced life. And the benefits associated with intentionally pursuing a more balanced life definitely surpass the benefits of the workaholic. So I would say the reason I went into it is because I had a personal experience. I experienced the benefits of intentionally doing that. And then I answered the question, how could I actually combine this personal experience with my business experience and bring that to more people so they can benefit, so they can experience with that. So that's how it started. But at the end of the day, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, I think people more and more are realizing that it's not how much time you spend at work or with different things, it's how much energy, how much focus you have. When you talk about energy, there are so many different ways for you to actually bring energy to whatever you want to do. And energy comes from many different places, and sleep is foundational for that. So I'll stop there and maybe let you go into a different type of question. But that's what really brought me to this.
Yes. So are you finding that, do you also encourage your employees, and do you kind of lead by example on this, or are you primarily practicing this in your own life?
No, absolutely. We do encourage the team to do that. In fact, it's an interesting story. I think when we first launched, we were doing a live cast, showing our customer service people. Actually, were showing a video of the customer service people talking to people. I think it was a sleep day in 2017, where we actually were taking calls from customers, and the customer service team was sleeping on mattresses. They were on mattresses actually taking the calls. But absolutely, I believe in work-life balance. I believe in letting people perform at their best in the comfort of their homes, and definitely encourage that for everybody on the team.
Yes. Well, Deepak Chopra, whom I think is probably certainly one of the best, if not the best, on the whole topic of the 6 pillars of well-being, talks about sleep, being really the he calls it the self-organizing and sleep and self-regulating process that really drives everything else. And he goes on, of course, to talk about meditation and stress management, exercise, including yoga and proper breathing, managing your emotional balance and equilibrium properly, eating properly, and so forth. But sleep is number one on his list. And I think I can certainly speak from experience. I am a type A personality, and have led a life through a political career and a business career of high stress and flying around the world and dealing with jet lag and eating on airplanes and all, just like you have. And always exercised and tried to eat well, but I was not getting the kind of sleep that I needed. And so I think this really needs to go to the top of the list for all of us. And so I wonder why it does not get this proper emphasis. And since you're in the business, could you talk a little bit about why maybe exercise and eating properly tend to get a lot more emphasis than sleep does?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting that you mentioned Deepak. I'm a big fan. I read several of his books. He was here in Philadelphia late last year, and I went to see a presentation by him. He was promoting his latest book, which is called The Healing Self. And he does stress the 6 pillars. I think he coined the term. And I think you mentioned that in your introduction here, that sleep is number one. And he goes as far as saying that everything else doesn't really matter if you don't have proper sleep. So that's an interesting point that you brought in. I back to your question now. I think why is it that people don't think about sleep? Even though I think that's changing, I think the awareness is on the rise now. But I think life in the 21st century is filled with excitement and opportunity. We have unlimited access to information. We are connected 24 hours with our friends and family, and I think there's a cost to this fast-paced technology-rich lifestyle. As a society, we've gradually worked our way into an era of sleep crisis. It's well known. Arianna Huffington, wrote the book, The Sleep Revolution, to really highlight that. And I think after she wrote the book, there's an increased level of awareness and communication in the media about that. But many of us deliberately avoid sleep, even seen as something that prevents us from getting things done. It's a very high productive society, right? Particularly in the US. So we're constantly overstimulated by being connected to the social media 24/7. So thankfully, I think there's a larger conversation about sleep going on, and awareness is increasing significantly.
Yeah. Well, just one further point, since we were discussing Deepak Chopra, he actually says that one of the biggest risks for cardiovascular disease and premature death is lack of sleep. And he says sleep is your window to the cosmic mind, and it's a spiritual experience. So again, he puts it number one on the list, and it's something we all need to pay a lot more attention to. Could you please just elaborate a little bit on some of the science behind what we're discussing?
Yeah, I can try. Like I said, I'm not a sleep expert, but I've read enough because it's very intimately involved with our business. So, and we write a lot about it in our website. We have a blog with over 150 articles talking about well-being and sleeping, a big part of it. I think most of the articles are related to sleep. So I learned a little bit, but the science behind it is that there are 4 major benefits associated with sleep from the science standpoint. Number one is sleep is crucial for hormonal balance. Our hormones are like the body's instant messaging systems. They're responsible for everything from our moods, from our immune system, fertility. So, and the hormones that are crucial to our health, they're produced and regulated during sleep. So if this process is broken, disrupted somewhere, it really compromised our overall health, and it can be very damaging. The second reason is our bodies actually physically regenerate while we sleep. So quality sleep helps reduce cortisol levels, which in turn decreases the likelihood of heart problems, like you mentioned, and high blood pressure. Our muscles and cells, they repair while we are in sleep, particularly in slow wave sleep, the deep sleep, which is the time when the secretion of growth hormone is at the highest. So that's another reason. And then less physical and more emotional, I would say, poor sleep causes an emotional well-being imbalance. The hormonal balance that we talked about is one of the reasons why people who are well rested have more stable moods. I would say, the emotional benefits go deeper than this. I mean, it's hard to maintain calm and a patient frame of mind when you feel exhausted and drowsy all day. So being cranky is not good. It's not good for you personally. It's not good for you in the business side. So conversely, if you got a great night's sleep, there's a lot of different benefits associated with it.
Yes.
And the last one I would mention is brain power, right? And there's several studies that have shown that deep sleep, restorative sleep, helps to consolidate learning, improve your memory, recall, all of it. So getting plenty of sleep contributes to much faster reaction times and heightened awareness and alertness. So, definitely a lot of studies have shown significant improvements. That's the science behind it, I think.
Yes. Well, you mentioned cortisol. I talk a lot about this in my book. Cortisol, of course, plays a positive role in that it's the brain chemical that alerts us to danger. And so if you're walking through a parking lot at night and you see a figure that looks a little bit menacing, that's what gives you the signal to move quickly to your car and get in and move on out. Unfortunately, so many who are chronically and acutely stressed today, this life in the A.S.A.P lane, as I refer to it, when you're acutely or chronically stressed, your body is getting carpet bombed with cortisol from head to toe, and through the vagus nerve, and so controlling cortisol has an incredibly important role to play in managing premature aging and managing a number of illnesses and disease that can actually lead to death, such as cancer. So I'm glad you mentioned cortisol. Of course, sleep is not the only way to manage cortisol, but it certainly is an important one.
Yeah. And you talked about
Is that your phone ringing?
No.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, you talk about aging, and skin is also the quality of your skin is also related to good sleep. So skin health deteriorates as a result of insufficient sleep. Yes. So that's another area that I mentioned that is related to the body physically regenerates when we sleep. So a lot of benefits.
Well, I think I mentioned as we were starting about America being second only to Mexico in obesity, which leads to the question of binge eating as one of the ways that people use to cope with stress. And so when we talk about the 6 pillars of well-being and tie that to sleep deprivation, does sleep deprivation, you think, lead to stress eating and other forms of these self-destructive medication practices?
Yeah, actually, yes. And there are studies that have shown that. We were talking earlier about hormone imbalance when you have problems sleeping. And one of them is actually the production of an hormone called ghrelin, which is the hormone that causes the sensation of hunger. So basically, if you don't sleep enough, you feel like you want to eat more, and simultaneously, the poor sleep suppresses leptin, which is the hormone responsible for making you feel full. So basically, a poor quality of sleep hits you both ways, and ultimately will lead into eating disorders and weight imbalance.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think that when I reflect back on the stressful life that I've led, just as an aside, Delvor, my nickname in college was Goat. And goats are famous for one thing, eating everything in sight, right?
And eat the right things, yeah.
Exactly right. Of course, I was an athlete in college, and my metabolism, is what you expect of a 18, 19, 20-year-old to be. So I had no trouble with weight control. But a guy opened up a pizza restaurant across from the freshman dorm and made the mistake of advertising 2 free pizzas. You could eat them at one sitting. And I did that about 3 or 4 times a week, and his business didn't last very long. So just from a personal standpoint, I've never had any trouble with alcohol or pills, but I think that I have been an emotional leader. So that can certainly, I think, lead to a lot of what we're seeing in terms of our national obesity rate.
Yeah.
So let's segue back again to your business. So as you know, there's a social business model. Tom Shoes, for example, being one. And as I've heard you talk about the goals of Nirvana, these are my words, not yours, but doing good while doing well might be a good way to describe it. But I don't think you consider yourself to be a pure social business model in spite of the goal of trying to do good while doing well. Would I be correct in that?
Yes, you're correct on that. I think what led me to, like I mentioned earlier, what led me to start the company was I wanted the opportunity to combine my personal experience and bring that to more people. At the same time, leverage years and years of experience in the space related to mattresses and materials. So it's interesting you say that, because very early on, before we actually launched the website, I was doing all the setup for supply chain and marketing and the branding of the company, all of it. And one of the people that was working with me on the marketing side, he was a service provider, but I really relied on him. He asked me this fundamental question. He said, if you weren't doing this, if you didn't have this brand positioning to help people live a more balanced life, would you launch this business just to sell mattresses? Because you have a ton of experience in mattresses. And he asked me, would you just do that? And I said, no, I wouldn't. Because there are plenty of people doing that. There are plenty of people selling mattresses, whether in a traditional retail setting or online. But no one is as concerned as we are to really bring the concept of helping people live a more balanced life. So to me, it was about combining both of them. And I couldn't see the company doing one or the other. So I think when people say, what are you trying to achieve, and really, what I say is that we're helping people live a more balanced life, starting with better sleep and starting with a better mattress, which is ultimately the combination of my professional experiences and expertise and my ability to develop a product that actually works. We have a lot of evidence of that, with my personal beliefs and experience, leveraging all aspects of a more balanced life to generate more energy, more focus, productivity, and happiness all around. So that was the premise. That was the concept. I mean, this whole concept, believe me, came to me, during one of my morning walks, and I said, wouldn't it be nice to combine all of this? That was the spark, really.
Yeah, interesting. Well, so I guess in that case, a mindful walk paid off with a good business idea, huh?
That's right. That's right.
Okay, just as one final question as we wrap up here, could you talk a little bit about, as you've described it, you didn't go into business just to sell mattresses. You went into it with a much broader, both financial and social goals. So talk about the design and how it compares to some of the other choices that are available, and how it could help us all maybe get better sleep at night.
Sure. I guess that's the time for me to brag a little bit about my company, right?
Yes, exactly.
So I think I would say, going back to, I had many years of experience in helping the largest mattress companies around the world develop their technologies and their materials to help people sleep better. And throughout this period, and I'm talking about over 2 decades, I can basically summarize the 3 main reasons people wake up in the middle of the night as it relates to the mattress, okay? Is number 1, temperature. People sleep hot and they wake up because they're hot, and that sends a signal to the brain that you need to move or you need to wake up to deal with that. That's number 1. Number 2 is motion, meaning if you're sleeping with a partner and a partner moves, you wake up on the other side. And that's another reason. And the third reason is lower back pain. You start having back pains and automatically sends a signal to your brain that you need to move. So those 3 reasons, they represent about 80% of why people don't sleep well as it relates to the mattress. And there are a ton of really good innovative materials right now that didn't exist 10 years ago that allowed us to engineer a product to minimize those issues, or in some cases eliminate these issues. So that's what Nuvana did. I developed this material to address those three key issues. And I would say after we launched, I was pretty confident this was going to be a great product based on all that experience. But ultimately, you don't really know until your customers start telling you how good this product is. So in less than a year after we launched, we achieved the highest percentage of 5-star reviews in the market and the lowest percentage of returns. One of the important things in our business model is that we give our customers 100 nights to try the product. If they don't like it, we actually refund them 100% of their money, and we donate the mattress to the Salvation Army.
Wow.
And the percentage of returns has been the lowest in industry. So that to me is the evidence that we need, that we developed a great product, it really works, customers love it, and they tell us about it, and they tell all their friends about it. So I encourage everybody, that's my plug, right? I encourage everybody to go check our website. It's called nuvana.com, nuvana.com. I'd love to be able to help everybody, but our customers absolutely are delighted with this product.
Well, I've looked at the website, and I can certainly underline what you said. The customer testimonials are quite interesting and incredible. So I would encourage all of our listeners to do that. So, Alvaro, I want to thank you just in closing here for joining us. Sleep is number one. We can all use more of it. The lack of it is contributing a lot to this mental and physical health crisis that we're facing. So I hope that our audience members can now appreciate the value of incorporating a proper sleep regimen into their overall mind-body program and understand how this links to avoiding many of the health-destroying practices that's causing so much damage today. So thanks to our listeners for listening. I hope this is helpful. And Alvaro, thank you once again, and I'll see everyone next week. Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Alan. Great to be with you. Bye.